John X. Beidler earned the nickname Vigilante X through his work as both a Montana vigilante and a deputy U.S. Marshal. John X. Beidler entered the world on August 14, 1831, in the Pennsylvania town of Mount Joy, where his parents, John and Anna Hoke Beidler, welcomed him before the family relocated to Chambersburg for his upbringing. His formal education was limited, and he spent his early working years learning trades as a cobbler and brickmaker. Following the deaths of his parents in 1849 and around 1850, Beidler headed west, initially settling in Illinois before moving on to Kansas to work a small farm. There he formed a friendship with abolitionist John Brown and aligned himself with other free soil advocates in their conflicts against pro-slavery border raiders during the violent period known as Bleeding Kansas. While serving as one of Brown's supporters, Beidler sustained a leg injury during one of these confrontations that resulted in a permanent disability. John left Kansas for Texas when Brown was hanged for his involvement in the Harper's Ferry attack in West Virginia. He subsequently relocated to Colorado, but upon learning of gold discoveries in Montana Territory, he traveled north in 1863. He reached Virginia City on June 10th, arriving just days after miners had struck gold in the area. Throughout this period of frequent moves, Beidler took on various jobs, including working as a shop clerk, mining for gold, running pack trains, and hauling freight. At that time, the rapidly growing boom towns had virtually no established law enforcement, and Virginia City was typical in this regard. While informal miners' courts dealt with petty disputes, there was no official authority to handle serious crimes like theft, armed robbery, and homicide. A criminal organization known as the Innocents operated under the leadership of Henry Plummer, who simultaneously served as sheriff in the neighboring town of Bannock. Beidler found work as an armed guard on stagecoaches and eventually became involved with the Montana Vigilantes in their efforts to bring order to the lawless region. Upon joining this group, he emerged as one of their most dedicated participants. In December 1863, he took a confidential pledge alongside 24 other men, committing to track down, apprehend, and execute criminals while working to eliminate the network of highway robbers and bandits. A jury was trying a man named George Ives for the alleged murder of Nicholas Tybalt, a young man who had been left an orphan by Indian raids prior to the creation of the Vigilance Committee. One of the guards during these gatherings was Beidler. When Ives was found guilty after 3 days of testimony and requested a delay in his execution, Beidler called down from a rooftop to the prosecutor, "Ask him how much time he gave the Dutchman." Ives was executed by hanging that same evening. The Vigilantes believed that eliminating gangs and criminals was the only method to establish law and order in the region. Embracing this mission with zeal, Beidler quickly rose to become the group's primary executioner and took part in multiple hangings. As the public face of the Vigilantes, Beidler, who preferred the moniker Vigilante X, drew both praise and criticism for his methods. Supporters viewed him as dependable and courageous, while detractors dismissed him as a diminutive tyrant and show-off. His personality was multifaceted. Though he stood just 5 feet 3 inches tall, shorter than his own rifle, he possessed tremendous energy. Known for his short fuse, he openly acknowledged that his anger could reach explosive levels. In recognition of his vigilante work, Beidler received appointments as customs collector and U.S. deputy marshal. Despite these official roles, he maintained his extra-legal activities, prompting widespread criticism that he was exceeding the boundaries of legitimate law enforcement. During January and February 1864, 21 individuals were seized and executed without formal trials, legal appeals, or opportunity to settle their personal matters. Even while holding his official law enforcement position, Beidler helped establish another vigilance committee in Helena. By 1867, Beidler had no shortage of work in Helena as the town was overrun with criminals. Robberies and killings were reported almost daily. In 1870, his tendency to operate outside legal boundaries nearly led to murder charges against him. That January, a Chinese miner named Ah Chow had killed someone in Helena. After Beidler apprehended the man, he brought him back to Helena and handed him over to the Vigilantes, who immediately executed him. When Beidler then requested the bounty money for Chow's capture, it outraged the local newspaper editor, who couldn't fathom that ordinary citizens would engage in such lawless behavior and then boldly admit their guilt by claiming the reward. Beidler later reported receiving intimidating messages, including one threatening letter that stated they would afford him no opportunity to ready himself for death, just as he had denied such preparation time to his numerous victims, and that they intended to witness his burial next to the Chinese man he had killed. John Beidler remained the deputy U.S. Marshal until the late 1880s. His health deteriorated in 1888, and without financial resources, he depended on the generosity of friends for support. He passed away on January 22, 1890, at Helena's Pacific Hotel from pneumonia-related complications at age 58. Hundreds of friends and colleagues gathered for his funeral, which was funded through donations. He was laid to rest in Helena. The Great Falls Weekly Tribune provided this evaluation of his legacy. He passed away in poverty, having devoted himself more to serving his region than to his own welfare. May he rest in peace. On October 21, 1903, the Montana Society of Pioneers had his remains relocated from their original resting place to Forest Vale Cemetery. A crude stone marker, reflecting his tough nature, was subsequently placed at his gravesite with an inscribed memorial plaque.